This expedition is not about us transecting the continent. It's not about a test of our physical endeavor or endurance. It's actually a conservation story.
Die bekende natuurbewaarders en skrywers Dr. Ian McCallum en Ian Mechler en hul span het onlangs 'n epiese reis van 4 maande onderneem. Die tog per voet, fiets en kajak het die oormigrasieroetes van die Afrika-olifant gevolg. Dit het 6 lande en 8 sleutelbewaringsknooppunte ingesluit en die doel was om 'n groter bewustheid te verkry van die belangrikheid van hierdie migrasieroetes en om oorgrensparkbewaring te bevorder.
I think we have to get away from the notion that animals have their place and human beings have their place. One of the great objectives for me is to be able to show during this particular expedition that there are people who for centuries have lived at that interface and have lived at that interface successfully.
Tydens die ekspedisie het die groep op voetsolvlak met hierdie ou migrasieroetes in aanraking gekom. Daarom die naam en die spore van die reuse. Die olifantbevolking is besig om vinnig af te neem waar nedersettings langs hierdie roetes ontstaan.
They need these connected landscapes over which to move. They have no regard for political boundaries. These animals move passport-free across 4 international boundaries in 1 year.
Hulle het ook kennis gemaak met die mense wat hard werk om die oorgrens en korridorbewaringsgebiede moontlik te maak.
Corridor conservation and transfrontier conservation, quite possibly the last throw of the dice we have so that we can relink wilderness areas that still exist.
Wildernisgebiede is die sleutel tot volhoubare bewaring en Kasa as 'n sprekende voorbeeld van hoe tradisionele leiers, gemeenskappe, regerings en nie-regeringsorganisasies asook die privaat sektor kan saamwerk.
The idea of Kasa is to create a dedicated area to conservation. Kasa area is home to a population of over 250,000 elephants. This project involves 5 different countries. We have to get the governments to move together, to work together.
We need to recognize the key role of these traditional leaders, because those traditional leaders bring the communities along with them. Conservation now is not about how clever you are at managing rhino or managing parks. It's really about how to get buy-in from the neighbors of parks, forests, protected areas.
Conservation is love. Not only love of the animal, but you love people as well.
Maar wat gebeur wanneer die mense bestaan deur wild bedreig word of wanneer natuurlike migrasieroetes versper en hulpbronne gedeel word?
Contradictory to what most people will think, this elephant bull wasn't shot because of the ivory that he was carrying or for his tusks, but because of human-elephant conflict. All too often, people are encroaching on vital corridors that elephants need to access water. And so people were either afraid or intimidated by the presence of this large bull here, and they chose to shoot him and to destroy him.
Wat van die oorspronklike inwoners van hierdie gebiede wat in harmonie met die natuur kon saamleef? Die twee eens het waardevolle kennis van die San en die Himba, wat sedert die oertyd hier leef, verkry en kontak gemaak met die natuurbewaarders wat saam met hulle werk.
The Himba, the San see themselves as part of nature, not dominating it. And that is critical, and I think with what's happening in the world, we're going to have to go back to that place too, where we see ourselves just as part of the whole, rather than some, clever technical being who can manipulate nature.
When I ask people about their fears, for example, of the future and their fears of people coming onto this land, often what comes up is their fear that the resources are going to be overutilized, and they frequently say things like, what's going to be left for our children?
Die werk van die beamptes van Namibië se oorgrenspark is 'n goeie voorbeeld van wat gedoen kan word.
Tot dusver is Namibië 'n ware suksesverhaal in gemeenskapsgesinde bewaring, waar baanbreker natuurbewaarders maniere gevind het waar die gemeenskappe kan voordeel trek uit die natuurskoon en die wilde diere van hierdie area.
Die gemeenskap self met hierdie wilde diere wat hulle nou oppas, hulle kry benefits, hulle kry bietjie iets wat hulle gebruik om vir hulle self watergates te bou of skole te help, iets in die gemeenskap as hulle wil wat doen. Kyk, met hierdie bietjie wat hulle van die diere afkry, dit help hulle hierso.
As jy nou daai regte teruggee aan die plaaslike bevolking, soos ons hierso in Namibië gedoen het ons gesien dat die mense se sienswyse oor die wild het heeltemal verander. Nou beskou hulle die wild as hulle eie eiendom.
Njengakithi le South Africa la ngiqhamuka khona, kufanele ukuthi sikwazi nathi ukuphilisana nemvelo ngoba siyingxenye yemvelo. Nabantu baphila abala eNamibia baphila ngaphansi kokuthi imvelo iphila kanjani nabantu bayingxenye yayo. Nokuthi bayimvelo kwabona. Mayingekho imvelo bakwazi ukuphila.
It is important for people to consult the local people in terms of conservation. We can be part of the success.
Community ownership is a prerequisite for the success of any conservation program. If people feel a sense of ownership, then you can be sure that they will succeed.
Wat van die afgeleë wildernisareas? Min mense ervaar ooit daardie unieke betowering, maar tog laat die mens 'n merk op sulke gebiede.
An area like the Magaligali is vital to the bigger picture of transfrontier conservation.
Die voortbestaan van die migrasieroutes strek nie net tot voordeel van die olifante nie. Dit laat ook 'n diversiteit van spesies en natuurlike ekosisteme floreer en dit lok toeriste.
We've now moved into an area which is an ecotourism concession, and within the last hour already we've seen zebra, warthog, impala, baboons, waterbuck, and all of those have been relaxed. The hunting concession that was here, the hunters were moved out 4 or 5 years ago, and there'd be no communities in this area. These ecotourism lodges providing a safe haven for these wild animals to come down.
If we can teach our neighbors that ecotourism is important, is then that we can sit down and say, yes, we are benefiting from this Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park.
Mosambiek was die tweede laaste land waardeur die groep gereis het, en dit was hier waar hulle 'n daadwerklike bedreiging van die natuurlewe, marine ekosisteme en oorgrensbewaringsgebiede teëgekom het, wat ook 'n impak op Suid-Afrika gaan maak.
Let us not forget to say thank you for the corridors that have already been established. For example, we crossed from Mozambique into South Africa. This is one of the great corridors, and I think we must protect it with everything we have.
This particular route that you're taking is the last freely migrating route of elephants in southern Africa.
The culture of conservation, which we take for granted in countries like Botswana and Namibia and Zimbabwe and South Africa, is actually lacking in Mozambique. I think the big shock for us was when we got to Tekobanin.
Die grootste bedreiging wat die oorgrenspark in die gesig staar, is die vooruitsig van 'n nuwe diepseehawe by Tekobanin. Die beplande hawe sal 2 keer so groot soos Richards Bay wees en sal 'n gebied van 30,000 hektaar beslaan.
The actual entry for the port itself is here to the east, where they're planning to breach the dune system, and the ships would literally come in here and be loaded in this hollowed out area.
There are not many places in the world where you have that combination of elephants on one side and whales on the other side. If they start it, it'll be one of the biggest ecological disasters along our east coast, which will affect Mozambique and South Africa.
Dit sal 'n absolute bespotting van die oorgrenspark bewaringsgebied maak en ons sal die situasie met valkoue dophou, maar daar is tog 'n ligpuntjie.
Ultimately, a statement to the world that there are some places which are just not for sale is a massive statement.
Wildlife, nature conservation, this is our real gift. This is ours.
Hierdie epiese reis was 'n venster na die wêreld van bewaringsreuse, beide mens en dier. En deur die spore van reuse ekspedisie sal die wêreld se aandag hopelik op die noodsaaklikheid van oorgrensbewaring van oormigrasie korridors gevestig word.